So sometimes handhelds from overseas randomly show up at my house, and this one showed up a couple of months ago. I never took a look at it, but it's Sunday and I don't have a video ready, so I figured, hey, let's take a look at this now. I like the design of it. It looks kind of cool, maybe like a PSP or a Vita or something like that. But what does it play, and what's the price point of it, you might be asking? Well, it's only $100. So if this $100 handheld is actually pretty good, it might be a good value for you. So let's check it out together. Here's our handheld, the Trimiu Smart Pro, Trimiu, I don't really know how to say it, but it's purpose-built to spark your imagination, and I have a pretty good imagination. We got a 4.9-inch LCD IPS screen. We have 2 joysticks, stereo speaker, simple box. I do like that it opens up from the top. This is the system itself. It's got a little bit of a cover on it. Here's our charging cable. Nothing else in the box. I did look under this little plastic piece here, and I found absolutely nothing. Then taking the system out, we have this little cover here, which actually has something of interest inside of it. But here's the system itself, and honestly, I kind of like it. You can see we have our SD card there. We have a plug-in spot. I think it could maybe go to the TV. You'll see the instructions on this aren't exactly what I would consider to be the greatest. We have a power button. I'm not a huge fan of these analog triggers here on the back. Like, there's 2 sets of triggers, and the L2 and R2 are kind of like convexed in a little bit. Like, I don't know, it doesn't feel great to like use it, but I do like the layout of it. I think, it feels good in my hands. So let's turn this bad boy on here. I like the dual analog stick. Obviously, that means we could do systems that maybe other handhelds that we've checked out can't really run. I don't know. This is $100, so it's not exactly, I'm not expecting like upscaled PS2 or anything on it, but I'm expecting some decent performance. And here's where I start to get confused. So I'm looking here, and I'm like, okay, whatever. And I see, I'm messing with the volume here. I'm trying to see if there's any brightness or anything. There's this function thing on the bottom. I don't know what that means. Like, it wasn't very clear what it means. The screen itself does look nice, though. But, like, where are the games? Like, how do I access the systems here? So I went to edit, and then I was like, no, that's probably not it. And I was like, okay, let me scroll around a little bit here. We've got a Famicart multi-cartridges, like, okay, and, we'll check that out. Pokemon collection and arcade vertical. And, like, this is all I could see. This is, looking at the top of it, you have best, favorite, and recent. So I was perplexed by this. I'm like, is it not a preloaded handheld? Like, here's some multi cartridges for the NES or the Famicom or whatever, and here's some arcade vertical shooters, but like, where are the actual games? Do I need to add games to this myself? That's not necessarily like a huge deal in my opinion, but I was very confused by it, because usually when you get these handhelds, they're just preloaded. Everything is already on here. So I got to thinking, like, here's all the Pokemons and stuff. I'm like, well, all right, well, let me look at the SD card that it comes with and see if there's like, anything on it that would kind of give me a hint. So I booted up the SD card on my PC, and you can see here, like, there's a bunch of Dreamcast games. These are all the systems that are on here. We've got a bunch of N64 games, it's like, so at this point, I'm just like really confused. And the lack of like any sort of instructions on how to like handle the menus or really do anything with this device was kind of, just very weird to me. There was some basic instructions on the other side of that cover that came with the system, and then I figured out, oh, you just keep going over. So maybe I'm just an idiot, but that to me did not seem like super intuitive. The screen itself is not a touch screen, but like I don't know, like I feel like that main menu, that should be what pops up, because most people that get something like this, they're just messing around with it. They're just seeing like what's there. So whatever, here's all the systems, here's all the games, a decent list of games per system. You could see, the different systems that are on here, the different games that are on here. Kind of weird how like the Game Boy ones are sideways, but like the screen looks very nice. You can see the colors are very crisp. I like the layout of it. So now I'm kind of getting a bit excited about this. PSP N64. You know, if this stuff runs good on it for $100, like, hey, this could be good. So here's a little CPS3 action. This is Street Fighter 3. It seems to be running fine. You know, it looks good. The D-pad, I don't love the D-pad on this, but I could get used to it. For whatever reason, the analog controls were not set up for this. This is running RetroArch, so if you're familiar with that, like, you should have no problem messing around with this system. But I did think it was kind of weird that, like, by default, I can't use the analog stick. Here's some N64 action. We have some Wave Race 64. This can be a bit of a challenging game for some systems, but it seems like it's running fine. You know, the emulator is the Mupen 64 GL emulator, which is a very good emulator. It does upscale things a bit. So, you know, the game is looking good. The game is running at a solid rate. The audio seems to be fine. Kind of figuring out the controls of all of these games because of all of these different systems, and it's kind of laid out like a more traditional controller is. You know, that's going to be confusing. You'll see me here playing some of these games, trying to figure things out, sometimes failing miserably. I mean, hey, it is what it is. But, you know, Wave Race is running fine. So then I'm thinking, okay, what's another challenging N64 game? Killer Instinct Gold. And this is a really fun game. I'm terrible at Killer Instinct, but I'm willing to play some Killer Instinct for you guys. Let's choose Jago. Let's go up against the wolf thing. And then let's go to the main menu because it crashes. Here's Nintendo DS running like absolute crap. Super Mario 64 DS. And like, there's no touchscreen on this. So you have to mimic a stylus to come up. And it's just like, bro, this is not working out well. So I'm losing complete faith in this thing. And then for some reason I tried PSP. And PSP is running substantially better than Nintendo DS was. And I am like, what? This is God of War Chains of Olympus, which is a very taxing game on the PSP, but I'm not sure if this game is originally 60 frames per second. I can't imagine it was, but maybe it was. But, you know, it might not be running perfectly, but it's running very, very well. Like, there's no audio hiccups happening or anything. The game is extremely playable, and everything that's happening seems fine. The controls are very responsive. There's no input lag or anything like that. So now I'm just really confused because it's like, oh, well, are settings maybe messed up for this system? And then I'm like, okay, well, let me try another PSP game. And I tried Tekken 5, and like, this is upscaled, and it looks freaking great. And at this point, I don't know what to make of this thing. You know, for $100, if this thing can run all PSP games really well, I will just use this as a replacement PSP with a better screen. And, you know, there are some menu hiccups with Tekken 5, but like, the actual game itself is running great, and it looks great. So with this handheld, I don't know what to make of it. You know, I think it's a case of just poor optimization with some stuff, with some of these emulators, because there's no reason why this should be running substantially better than something like Nintendo DS is running. Here's a little Dreamcast here, and honestly, once again, this is upscaled. Trying to figure out the controls. It does seem a little bit choppy, but the music is playing at a full clip, which usually if there's emulation issues, the music would be hiccuping. So I just think this thing is like poorly optimized. You know, I think it has enough juice to it to run something like PSP in a pretty decent manner. Of course, since it's RetroArch, you can like adjust settings and stuff like that. I just think this thing needs to be way more optimized out of the box. You know, there shouldn't be ROMs on there that literally don't work, especially when you don't have a full N64 library on there. And like, I don't know, the PSP, like, it was going to be so easy for me to just crap all over this thing, but the PSP performance made me kind of take a step back, and it's like, well, maybe this is just poorly optimized. I don't know. I'll have a link to it, an Amazon affiliate link in the description box down below should you choose to buy this, but this thing just really confused me. Let me know in the comment section down below what you think of it, and as always, guys, thank you for checking out this video, and I'll catch you guys on the next one. Later.